This new electric berry lemonade smoothie from Jamba Juice hits the spot. It's not a sponsor, but if you guys ever live near a Jamba Juice, it's new, try it out. It's actually really good. We are down to 2 more episodes left until new season of Setup Wars. We're ending the last 3 episodes with a banger. So with that said, sit back and relax. Why is there an ant on my table? Get the hell out of here. We're gonna end the last 3 episodes with a banger, so sit back and relax, because you know what time it is. TechSource Season 6 mouse pads are officially here. If you guys want to snag one, make sure to visit dealsource.tech/store or just click the link below. Kicking off the episode is Joe with his cozy ROG-themed gaming setup. He's a student from Sheffield, UK, that took about 3 months to complete the setup for gaming and productivity. Right off the bat, I think the setup looks a bit cramped. I don't think you really needed to put the PC on the same desk, especially considering you have a whole other desk to your right. I would move the PC over to the side table to give your setup some room to breathe. This will also expand your mouse space. You can also move the microphone towards the back on the right instead of having it going across the monitors, interfering with the view. We got a 27-inch Odyssey G7 as the main with a secondary 27-inch in vertical for multitasking. Below that, we got a Black Widow V3 keyboard paired with a Razer Basilisk mouse and a pair of SteelSeries Arctis 7s, which are the only source of audio for the setup, at least until he picks up some creative pebbles. I do like the effort that Joe put into decorating the setup with some RGB lighting and artwork. It gives the setup a unique personality. While I don't agree with adding a random acoustic panel between the pictures, I do have to admit it's much less obtrusive compared to using black panels that we saw from the last episode. If you must use filler items to cover up unused or empty spaces on your wall, always stick to neutral colors, because if it doesn't come out looking good, at least it won't be as noticeable. The filler items in this setup would be the acoustic panels, because they certainly don't provide any sound treatment and it's only put up there for aesthetics and to cover up the empty spaces. I do have to say there's one thing that a lot of us struggle with, and I speak from personal experience. When I see an empty wall or empty space anywhere, I see that as an opportunity to be creative or create something cool. And sometimes I take that a little too far and I use up all the space. My last setup was the perfect example of this, where I covered the entire wall with panels. I didn't know when to stop. I mean, yeah, it looked dope as hell, but it was a little overkill. So my advice to all the aspiring setup builders out there is to take it slow. Don't do everything all at once. Take it step by step. What I mean by this is if you want to do a bunch of cool things to your setup, always start with the first coolest idea you have and then take a step back. Let it simmer in your setup for a couple days while you're using it, and if you truly think your setup needs more, then gradually add to it. All I'm trying to say is don't add a bunch of things to your setup, because most of the time it becomes overkill and a bit forced. That's what we've seen on Setup Wars a lot, so just take it slow. Unfortunately, I only have one angle of the PC, but from what I can see, it looks pretty cool and matches the setup's colors nicely. As far as the cables go, they could use a little more work. I mean, there are a few cables left unattended underneath the monitors, and there is a lot of flaring behind the PC that could easily be contained with some Velcro straps. This can definitely use a few tweaks to improve, but all in all, it's a very nice setup. Thank you, Joe, for starting off the show. Now this setup is pretty badass, and it's also the first setup that I've seen with this monitor layout. Not only did he go with a rare pyramid stack, but both of the monitors are tilted at an angle. Apparently this setup was inspired by my original dream setup. He's even added the ability to move the top monitor down just like I did. I speak from personal experience when I say that this was not an easy thing to pull off, considering that he had to be very precise in the measurements and the mounting. So hats off to you, Jun, for the execution. The setup was originally 3D modeled with a custom backboard, but it had a different layout back then. He's since upgraded his monitors and mounted them against the headboard, along with both of his speakers and some acoustic panels. This gives the setup a really clean 3D look and allows him to easily manage the cables behind the headboard. He does use both of the bottom 24-inch monitors mostly and uses the top 24-inch as an overhead. But when he's gaming, he needs the 144Hz refresh rate. So he pulls out the top monitor in front of him, which brings it to a more comfortable height and distance. For peripherals, he's rocking the Logitech G513 keyboard and a G502 mouse, and since the monitors are floating, he's able to use the extra space under it to store some of his other gear. For audio, he's got two massive speakers hooked up against the headboard for the primary source, but for gaming, he swaps over to the AKGs with a dedicated mic setup using the Divine BM1000 mic. Cables are managed very good, no complaints at all. However, I'm surprised to see that you still use legs for the table even though you have 4 triangle brackets hooked up to the desk. You could have made a really nice floating desk that would have complemented the headboard and floating monitors, but for some reason you decided to install them anyways. You really gotta have some faith in those triangle brackets, especially if you mounted them to a stud. It doesn't take much to support the desk that you're using, especially since you have practically everything hooked up against the wall. My advice, get rid of those legs. The PC part of the setup is kept underneath the desk, and it appears to be a budget build, but unfortunately we don't know what GPU he's using since he didn't list it. I do know it's a Gigabyte model with dual fans and a single 8-pin PCI connector. How about this? Whoever can guess the correct model of the GPU in the comment section will get a pin from me. Let's see who can guess it first. It's always nice seeing a setup that was inspired by my very own. I think this came out really great, June. Thank you for sharing this with us. Keeping up with the momentum is Kenneth's setup that took about a year to complete. He's an aerospace engine mechanic from Nebraska who likes to game on his spare time, so he decided to build a setup where he can relax and unwind after work. We got a clean stacked monitor layout with dual 29-inch ultrawides, both mounted against the desk. And below that we got the Corsair K65 keyboard with an M65 mouse. But you know what's missing in this setup? A mouse pad, but not just any mouse pad, the new beacon pad for my Season 7 collection. And yes, I know the desk has a giant mouse pad on it already, but the peripherals just look very naked without a mouse pad underneath it. So check it out along with my other new releases by visiting dealsource.tech/store or just click the link below. For primary audio, he's using the Logitech Z533 speakers, but for gaming, he swaps over to the MX50 BTs. He does have a dedicated mic too, but I'm personally not a fan of the location. The Blue Yeti is a condenser microphone and it will absolutely pick up every bit of noise from that keyboard, so I would recommend picking up an actual boom arm to separate them. He does own a MacBook with an extra mouse that he keeps on the left corner of the setup for productivity, but the actual setup is powered by a custom PC that's equipped with a Ryzen 7 3800X and an Asus GTX 2060. The color scheme is a bit of an odd one here. It's very inconsistent. We got the PC that is mostly white, mixed in with other white and black gear, and then you got this red accent from the desk itself. I would have loved to see a bit more consistency with the color scheme here. Cables, however, are managed well for the most part. However, if you want a cleaner cable aesthetic, you can always use a few white cable clips to straighten out the cable path. Overall, not bad. There's always room for improvement, like usual when it comes to setups. Thank you, Kenneth, for sharing this with us. Coming back on the show is Kirin and his completely revamped gaming and productivity setup. He was actually in the couples edition of Setup Wars back in episode 251, where he showed off a triple setup for his wife, son, and himself. But since then, he moved out of the bedroom to build himself a brand new setup privately. You know, sometimes it's best to have your own private setup in your own room, so I definitely understand Kirin's decision here. The setup's purpose remains the same, however he did upgrade quite a few things since he has more space to work with. He wanted to ditch all of his RGB gear and go with something more cozy, minimal, and sleek. He started off with 3D modeling the entire setup to make sure all the measurements add up and the colors match with the gear. I think the results speak for themselves when I say that he nailed the execution. He did keep the same ultra-wide, which he uses as the main display, but swapped his second display for a smaller portable monitor that he keeps on the bottom. I love that he even included a video of him actually using the setup. You know guys, I would love to see more of these on Setup Wars, so please don't be afraid to include a video of you at your setup. It adds a nice new element to the show. We also got a new set of peripherals. He's rocking the RK987 with an MX Master 3, both wireless to avoid cable clutter and further contributes to the minimal and sleek aesthetic he was going for. Even though the monitor is mounted against the desk, he did add a monitor riser for an additional layer of storage while keeping some of his other gear organized underneath. For audio, he's still rocking the Razer normal speakers, but upgraded his headphones to the Corsair HS70s. Have you noticed that most of the support gear he's using are made out of wood? like the wrist rest, headphone stand, and monitor riser. In fact, he even sprayed his pegboards with wood lacquer to match the rest of the colors and the tones of the setup. We don't have a cable management pick, unfortunately, but from what I can see in this angle, he's got it under control. One thing he did get rid of is the boom arm holding his microphone, so he just stores it on a shelf when he's not using it. The PC is mostly the same, however the GPU got a slight upgrade. He moved up from the Aorus RTX 3070 to an Aorus RTX 3070 Ti, but he did switch the orientation to vertical. All in all, very nice upgrades from before and excellent execution on your new setup. Thank you, Kirin, for coming back on the show. What an intro that was. Wrapping up the episode is this stunning setup by Rasheed, who's an experienced architect coming all the way from the Kingdom of Bahrain. He got bored one day during quarantine, so he decided to completely remodel his garage into a man cave where he spends his time working out, getting some work done, and playing games. It took him a total of 4 months to complete the construction and build a setup from scratch, and man, oh man, did it come out looking amazing. We got a dedicated workbench area for custom work that he does sometimes, and right across from that is a custom cabinet that stores his gym equipment. The entire desk for the setup was also custom made. The cabinets and the drawers were from the IKEA Voxtorp units, while the countertop was handmade with CNC cutouts near the back to help with cable routing. A single 32-inch Quad HD monitor is all he needs to get work done, and it's mounted beautifully against the wall that's surrounded by some nice looking 3D hexagon panels. I gotta tell you guys, it's refreshing to see different panels being used for once. And for those wondering why there's a random black one in there, well, it's because he wanted to resemble the moon on a bright day. So basically all the white hexagon panels are the sky, and then you got that one black one that resembles the moon. Moving on to peripherals, he's rocking a Razer Black Widow X Chroma with a Basilisk mouse, and take a look at the cable routing, ladies and gentlemen. He used a knob of some sort to keep those super clean and straight cable path going across the desk. Excellent, excellent work. I think he did an awesome job with the gear selection too. I mean, everything just fits so well with the theme of the setup. Like these Harman Kardon sound sticks, for example. They're modern, elegant, and minimalistic. The cable management is pretty much flawless. There's a single raceway covering the cables from the peripherals straight into the back of the wall and into the cabinet where everything is plugged in. I also want to point out the Genius mod for his audio switcher, and for those that don't know what that is, it's basically like a USB switcher, but for audio. He attached it right above the cabinet door so it's hidden, but still within reach. But he also cut off a piece of it so that he can route the cables without interfering with the door. He's got the switcher connected to his PS4 on the left side and his custom PC on the right. This way he's able to swap the audio from the speakers to whichever system he is gaming on currently. The PC alone is a masterpiece. He is calling it Black Moon, very similar to the acoustic panel layout in the setup. It's a fully decked out, custom water-cooled build featuring a 9900K and an MSI RTX 2080 Ti. We got the same color scheme in here, and I actually like the way he did the lighting. He is using the pink color as the focal point, and then we got the teal for ambient lighting everywhere else. He basically wants you to start at the monitor and then explore the rest of the setup. That is how effective lighting is if done right. The PC, the setup, the custom work, the lighting, I mean, all of it is very impressive. And the funniest thing here is that it's not a high-end, super expensive, over-the-top setup at all. When you break it down, it's a minimalistic single monitor setup, but it's executed so damn well. And for that reason, I'm awarding Rasheed the 46th seal of approval. If you're watching this video, toss an email to setupwarsprizes@gmail.com or find me on Discord to claim your prize. Well done, my guy. As a reminder, you guys can always pick up a cheap Windows CD key for less than $15. Just click on my link below and use the code TS20 for an extra 20% off. Once you get your CD key, just visit the activation settings in Windows and change your product key. It's that simple. And with that said, let me know which of these setups was your favorite in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed the video and Setup Wars makes your Mondays just a little better, feel free to smack a like before you head out. And if you're new here, do subscribe because season 6 is right around the corner. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.